Nigeria's debt profile now stands at 16.29 trillion naira as of June the 30th, 2016. This is 34.41% higher than what was recorded in 2015. Data from the Debt Management Office shows that external debt by the federal and state governments stood at 3.19 trillion naira for the same period, compared to 2.03 trillion naira in July last year. The domestic debt of the federal government stood at 10.61 trillion naira as of June this year, up from 8.4 trillion naira a year ago, while that of the states also rose to 2.5 trillion naira. The DMO further explains that the Nigerian treasury bills accounted for 27.36% of the federal government's domestic debt profile. Treasury bonds, on the other hand, accounted for 2.18% of federal government's domestic borrowing. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, says a total of 510.2 billion naira was shared by the three tiers of government for the month of August. The figure indicates an increase of 16.6 billion naira of the amount shared in July. Mrs. Adeosun said the federal government received 187.3 billion naira, the states received 95.0 billion naira, while local governments got 73.2 billion naira, and all producing states shared 18.4 billion naira derivation revenue. According to the finance minister, crude oil export volume increased by 2.2 million barrels in May, in spite of the brief force majeure declared at Kwa Ibo and Bonny terminals. Owando PLC has signed a midstream agreement with Helios Investment Partners, a premier Africa-focused private investment firm, to acquire 49% of the voting rights in Owando's mainstream business subsidiary, Owando Gas and Power Limited. Owando will still retain 49% of voting rights in Owando Gas and Power Limited, while the remaining 2% will be held by a local entity. In a statement to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the group explained that the agreed transaction consideration of $115.8 million is conditional upon receipt of regulatory approvals and subject to customary purchase price adjustments. According to the oil group's chief executive, Wale Tinubu, this strategic alliance will firmly leverage the group's local knowledge and expertise along Helios' strong financial capabilities to revolutionize the sector and position gas as a key driver for Nigeria's economic empowerment. Guinness Nigeria has reported its first loss in at least 30 years, citing the harsh economic environment in the country. Nigeria's second biggest brewer posted a profit before tax of 2.34 billion naira as of June 30 this year, as against 10.79 billion naira in 2015. The company's revenue dropped 14% to 101.9 billion naira, while operating profit dipped from 15.6 billion naira to 4.4 billion naira. During the week, the company's shares fell by 7% to 93 naira at the Nigerian Stock Exchange and has dropped by 17% since the start of 2016. The non-performing loans of the Nigerian banking industry ended 2015 at 5% threshold, but the figure has been projected to worsen further before the end of the year. This finding is contained in the 2015 banking report put together by investment management company AfriInvest. According to the chief executive, Mr. Ike Chioke, there is need to re-stimulate the economy in a bid to expand the risk assets of Nigerian banks.
We've seen that going from 2014 to 2015, a lot of the banking metrics have worsened, and that's underscored by the performance of the economy. Banks, if are a barometer of the economy, and once the economy starts having difficulties, then banks, they are the first industry to feel it. So when we look at all the measures, gross earnings, profitability, risk assets, cost-income ratio, capital adequacy ratio, things have worsened from 2014 to 2015. We have not seen an expansion in risk assets, for instance. It's just kind of remained marginally flat. Although revenues seem to have grown by around 11-12%, when you look at the profit side, it's actually shrunk by 28, almost 30%. So those are worrying signs. Now, the industry ended the year 2015 at 5% non-performing loan threshold, just at the regulatory benchmark. As we stand now, industry NPLs are 11%. So those are worrying signals. And so that underscores the broader issue that the economy is facing.
In order to eradicate poverty and reduce unemployment in sub-Saharan Africa, complex issues such as infrastructure needs to be addressed, particularly as commodity prices remain volatile. This is according to the chairman of Heirs Holdings, Mr. Tony Elumelu. Mr. Elumelu spoke to VOA Channel's TV business correspondent Gio Maladrino on the sidelines of the just concluded Africa Investor Forum at the Nasdaq Exchange in New York.
For us to actually transform the economy of South Africa, we must fix the issue of infrastructure, starting with power, transportation. Power access to electricity in Africa is so poor. Over 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity. We must fix this, especially in the 21st century, if we're serious about becoming a serious player in the global economy.